let's talk about automation. One of the most practical and time-saving ways to use ChatGPT. If you ever wished your tools could talk to each other and just get things done while you focus on the big picture, this lesson is for you. So we're going to be using Zapier for this lesson. What is it? Zapier is a tool that connects your apps. And when you pair it with ChatGPT, you can set up automation that feels essentially like magic. For example, imagine a new client fills out a form. ChatGPT can read the info, summarize it, and send it straight to your inbox automatically. Let me show you how to build this kind of workflow step by step. And trust me, it's actually super simple. So first things first, we need a Google form. I'm going to go over to Google Forms, or you can type in docs.google.com, and I'm just going to create a new form all from scratch. So I'm going to name it Client Intake Form. I'm going to name this number 2 because I already have one in there just so I could differentiate them when we're in Zapier. Next, we need to put in our first question, which is going to be pretty basic. So it's going to be name, and answer type is going to be short answer. Then I'm going to add another question, and this is going to be business type. Again, the answer is going to be short, and last question is going to be main challenges with an E, thank you. And the answer for this is going to be paragraph, just in case, people want to spell their heart in this section. Why not? So now that we have the very basic example form made, I am going to hit publish and make sure to hit this copy response link. Okay. And here you have the form. We're going to fill it out again, just for an example for this kind of video or lesson. We're going to type in, let's say, Jane Smith. It's going to be the name. My business type is going to be coaching, and my main challenges are going to be struggling to attract new leads consistently and difficulty converting website visitors. I'm trying to think of all kinds of challenges that people might be experiencing right now in their businesses, so bear with me. Into paying customers. Okay, so here we have an example dummy form. I'm going to hit submit, and there. Now we should have another form waiting. So now we're going to go over to Zapier. You can access it by typing in zapier.com and make sure you have an account created to start this process. But once you have that, let's start with creating a Zap. Hitting this big orange button, create and Zaps. And here we have the workspace to create an automation. Of course, Zapier does have templates and things that you can use for automations, but this kind of action really is not that complicated, and it's very simple to create from scratch. And also, once you learn it once, you can really start creating really complicated ones if you're into that. But anyways, let's just keep going. So now we are here. We have to start creating our action. First things first, we need a trigger. So luckily, we have already 2 windows here, trigger and action. So I'm just going to hit on trigger. And from here, we need the trigger app, which for us is Google Forms, right? So if, however, Google Forms is not available in your plan, you can also link your form to Google Sheets instead. And instead of Google Forms, you would have a Google Sheets. And after this, you would need to have, so once you have your trigger app, you will need your trigger event, which if you are using Google Forms, so instead of using what I would do, you would put new spreadsheet row. So new form response for me, if you're using Sheets, it would be new spreadsheet row. So I'm going to click on this trigger event, and next make sure that your email, your Google account is connected to Zapier, just so we can extract the Google form from your account. So here I already have it connected to my dummy email, but here it would just say, it would have a blue button, would say connect, and from there you can connect to any email or Google account you have already. Since we have that going on, I'm just going to hit continue. And here in the configure section, I'm going to select my form. Okay, so here we can see I have not named the form properly. Of course I haven't. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it in the name. Okay, it should be here. I'm going to refresh the results. Okay, here we have client intake form 2. That's the one that we just created. And if you have many forms that you would want this kind of automation to have, you would have to create different zaps. So each zap is for each form in this case, right? Okay, so now we have the form. You hit continue. And from here, I'm just going to test this trigger. You always want to make sure you test them because sometimes details, they kind of slip away and you don't notice things. And it's always good to kind of test your steps. So it looks like all was good. We have a green check mark, which is good. It says, we found records in your Google Forms account. We will load up to 3 most recent records that have not appeared previously. Okay, that sounds fair to me. But here, once you actually hit on the form response, we can actually see the latest response, I suppose, or the response that I just made when I filled out the dummy form, right? I was just filling that out. So it shows us here. We have Jane Smith. Main challenge is struggling to attract new leads consistently and difficulty converting website visitors into paying customers, and business type is coaching. And so all is good. Our trigger is all sorted out. Now we can move on to action. So you can continue or you can just hit on this action window here. And now we need the action app. Action app for us is going to be ChatGPT, OpenAI. So I'm going to select that. And action event is going to be send prompt. So you can scroll through here. I'm just going to search for it. Here we go. Send prompt. And again, here is where you would connect to your ChatGPT account. However, I want to make sure that you're aware that you'll need an API key to connect from your ChatGPT or OpenAI to Zapier, which also requires a paid plan. So either Pro or Plus subscription. Unfortunately, free accounts cannot use API keys. So just keep that in mind. If you want this kind of very beneficial automation, then you'll need to get a subscription to OpenAI. But besides that, if you do have your OpenAI paid account, you can get your API keys on platform.openai.com. You can create yourself a new API key or use one that you already have. However, do keep in mind that your API key is kind of your password. Do not share it publicly. And if you do, either blur it out or delete it right after showing. Now that all the error is cleared up, I'm just going to hit continue. So here in the configure section, we have a couple of things to do. This is where you would choose your model. So I'm just going to go with the 3.5 Turbo. I have tested this and it works well. So I'm just going to keep that where it is. When it comes to the prompt, okay, this is where things can get a little bit tedious, but no worries. I'm going to go to my document here and I'm just going to copy this entire thing, which I have prepared previously. And I'm going to go back to Zapier and just paste it in the prompt section. But the fun doesn't end here, because what we need to add the actions so ChatGPT can recognize, or Zapier can recognize, and ChatGPT can act on them. So here by name, because I want this kind of automation to summarize the information I get in my forms and then send them to my email. And then this prompt section is the place where I organize that to happen, right? So make sure you use colon. And here on the plus button, make sure you hit that. And here, if you scroll down, actually here we got the Copilot AI already is suggesting some things, which is very handy. So first, we'll select the name next to name. Okay. Then here by business, we'll do same thing, business type, and main challenges. Just make sure it is correlated correctly, right? And then at the end is summarize this information in 3 bullet points, include the client's name in the summary, focus on their main challenges, and suggest services they might need. So this is giving the information where ChatGPT should look from Google Forms. As you can see, that's the logo. And then this is the actual prompt. We're telling what ChatGPT should do. Okay, so from here, that's all sorted. I'm going to hit continue. And here we can actually see how the information's already recognized because we did put in the correct correlated information. So I'm just going to test this real quick and make sure it works properly. Okay, no errors. Everything looks good. We get a green check mark. It says prompt was sent to ChatGPT. Okay, cool. But we also need one more step, which would allow ChatGPT to send us an email. So what we need is Gmail, which should be right here. Okay. Oh, it automatically connected. How handy is that? Yeah, make sure you connect this third step to the email where you would like to receive the email. So the action event for this, however, is going to be send email, which is right here. Now just hitting next. So I'm just going to put in the email where I would like to receive it. Then the areas with the little red star is where you actually want to pay attention a lot more. For now, especially as a beginner, make sure they're filled out, otherwise this might not work. So the subject line is going to be new client summary. And now in the body, what I'm going to do is hit the plus button right here. And over here is you can tap on the second step, and this is going to give you a bunch of choices that you can select that what the body will include. So I'm going to just type out, here is a new client lead. Why did I spell that with the capital? And I'm just going to hit this because here I can actually see how the response would be made. So for example, we have Jane Smith, a coaching business owner. So it's naming the name and the business type from the form is facing. So it's pretty much giving us a full summary of what the form said and also giving us suggestions of what Jane might need for her business. So I'm just going to select response. This is very useful. It is very automated in that sense. You don't have to code it. You don't have to make your own kind of order of these kinds of responses, which is cool. So from here, let me make sure I'm not missing any areas. Okay. Of course, you can go ahead and add a CC or just start customizing really to your liking. But from a beginner perspective, at first, it's always easier to simplify just so this kind of information isn't scary. So I'm just going to hit continue and test this step as well. Okay, it seems like worked. We have a green check mark again, and a message was sent to Gmail. Let's go to Gmail and check our inbox real quick, just to verify that it worked. So here we have a new email, new client summary. Here's the text that I put in. Here's a new client lead. And here we have what ChatGPT actually generated. So Jane Smith, a coaching business owner, is facing challenges in consistently attracting new leads. She also struggles with converting website visitors into paying customers. And here is a suggestion. To address these challenges, Jane may benefit from lead generation and conversion optimization services. Cool. Okay. I love this. Especially even a small business owner, this really does take off a lot of weight from one's shoulders, especially when you have this kind of assistance in such repetitive tasks. So automation with ChatGPT is definitely a big advantage and something that people don't use enough, in my opinion, because there's a lot of benefit. So from here, you would just hit publish and you have your automation officially running and helping you out run your business successfully. To recap this lesson, ChatGPT plus Zapier can save a ton of time of repetitive tasks like intake summaries and even follow-ups. It is ideal for solopreneurs, freelancers, marketers, and really anyone who is juggling a lot of moving parts all at once. Again, you need to know that you will need a paid OpenAI account to make the Zapier plus GPT connection. So keep that in mind. And even if you're a free user, you can still use Zapier manually. You just won't have ChatGPT in the loop automatically, unfortunately. But I hope you learned something new, and I hope that this really does come very handy in your daily life, your business, because I really do appreciate these kinds of automations, especially with ChatGPT. I'll see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we will look at how to use ChatGPT to generate content that is ready to reuse across your favorite tools, whether that's Notion, Google Docs, Excel, Canva, or Slides. When you're building content or managing tasks, reformatting things manually can eat up a lot of time. But with a little bit of prompt planning, you can have ChatGPT deliver content already structured for the platform you're working in. So let's say I want to draft a blog post outline for Google Docs or Notion. This works for both. I would give ChatGPT this kind of prompt. So create a blog post outline on remote work in 2025, format it in Markdown so I can paste it into Google Docs. You can say Notion or whatever it is. So let's hit enter. And ChatGPT will create this Markdown formatting that will actually make it pasting into Google Docs super easy because everything's already formatted for me. So you're not going to need to tweak any headers or even bullets. Now, next up, let's create a table for, let's say, customer feedback that we can drop straight into Excel or Google Sheets. So going back to the text box, I'm going to put in a prompt saying I need a customer feedback table with columns for name, issue, and resolution. Output in a CSV format. So here we have the CSV format of the table. And from here, you just copy and paste it into Excel or Google Sheets like I showed before. But now we actually can select copy and go to your Google Sheets and just paste it. And there you go. That's just as easy as the previous one. And when it comes to this kind of stuff, you can also actually have it create some text blocks for a presentation that you're making on Canva. So for example, you can go in back to the chat box and say, create 3 slide headlines and bullet points for a presentation on, let's say, sustainable business practices. And here you have the same thing, and you can as well go back, copy the title of this, go to your Canva design and paste it. I'm using my keyboard because that shortcut's very easy for me. And from here, that would be your title. And going back to your ChatGPT, just copy the bullet points and change. Okay. And of course, from here, you can start adjusting and designing to your own liking. But this is how it will go. So I'm going to do only one example, but going forward, this overall makes this kind of presentation making much easier. When it comes to the compatibility, this works both on the free and the paid plans. You'll get the cleanest formatting, however, using GPT-4o and GPT 4.5. GPT 4.1 Mini can work for simple structures. Just double check formatting before copying. And pretty much this is how you can use ChatGPT to prep content for Notion, Google Docs, Sheets, Canva, you name it. The key is to structure your prompt with the end format in mind. So it can be Markdown, CSV, slide bullets, whatever you need. It's a massive time saver and makes ChatGPT way more plug and play for your daily workflow. A big time saver when using ChatGPT is actually creating prompt templates you can reuse over and over again. You don't need to set up any automation or advanced tools. Just build a solid prompt once and reuse it weekly, daily, or whenever you need it, like a shortcut to consistent output. Now let me walk you through an example of a reusable content prompt. So I have it copied right here, which I have it saved on my Google Docs, and I just copy it, go to ChatGPT, and paste it into the chat box. Hit enter, and ChatGPT will give me a whole content calendar. Here you go. And that was that easy. I had prepared this prompt way before, and from here, I can actually always tweak the topic. So for example, it doesn't need to be AI trends. I can do remote work or digital wellness. For example, I have it copied. Let's paste it again. Let's do something else. Remote work. And here, by changing the topic, I get a whole new thing with the same structure. I didn't need to rewrite the same prompt twice. You can even make a little folder of reusable prompts, one for content planning, one for email writing, one for research, etc. If you ever build a custom GPT, you can paste them into the instructions field so they're always ready to go. These prompt templates are a simple, practical way to speed up your workflow. Just write it once, reuse it whenever needed, and make the adjustments as necessary.